It's 2 a.m. and I'm wiping down tables at Murphy's Diner when my phone starts buzzing for the 25th time tonight. Marcus Reed, the same guy who blocked my number 3 days ago after calling me ugly in front of his Wall Street buddies and leaving me with a $300 dinner bill. I stare at his name flashing across my cracked phone screen, my hands still sticky from cleaning syrup off booth tables. 25 calls in 6 hours. This is the same man who told me I was an embarrassment to successful men everywhere, while his friends laughed like hyenas at Romano's steakhouse. Something must have happened, something bad enough to make the guy who blocked my number suddenly need the pathetic waitress he'd humiliated 3 days ago. But here's the thing Marcus didn't know about his pathetic waitress. Sometimes the people serving your food have been serving much bigger tables than you could ever imagine, and I was about to teach him that you should never, ever mistake someone's uniform for their net worth. Before I tell you how I went from victim to victor in just 1 week, smash that subscribe button if you believe everyone deserves basic respect, no matter what job they do, and drop a comment. Have you ever been judged by someone who had no idea who they were really talking to? Trust me, this story is about to get very interesting. Let me back up to 3 nights ago. Romano's Steakhouse, the kind of place where a single bottle of wine costs more than I make in tips all week. Marcus had insisted we go there for our 2-year anniversary. I should have known something was wrong when he picked the most expensive restaurant in the city, but forgot his wallet. Again. I was wearing my best dress, the navy blue one I'd saved up 3 months to buy. My hair was perfect, makeup flawless. I thought I looked beautiful. I thought he'd think I looked beautiful too. How wrong I was. "Look around, Emma," Marcus had said, gesturing at the elegant women, dripping in diamonds and designer everything. "See that? That's what success looks like. Not some..." He paused, his eyes scanning me like I was something disgusting he'd stepped in. "Not some ugly trailer trash waitress who embarrasses me in front of my colleagues." I felt my face go hot. My hands started shaking. Trailer trash. In front of the entire restaurant. His 3 buddies were loving every second of it. Jake Morrison, the gambling addict who always needed to borrow money, actually started clapping. Tyler Brooks, married but always hitting on waitresses, was recording it on his phone. And Ryan Carter, the guy who'd been lying about his violent past for years. He just sat there with this smug smile like he was watching his favourite TV show. "You know what, Marcus?" Jake had said, raising his whiskey glass. "You're absolutely right. Time for an upgrade, buddy." An upgrade, like I was a car with too many miles on it. I sat there in that restaurant, surrounded by people staring at me with pity and disgust, while the man I'd loved for 2 years systematically destroyed me for entertainment. The worst part? When the $300 bill came, Marcus stood up, threw a 20 on the table and said loud enough for half the restaurant to hear, "A girl like you should be grateful I even looked at you twice." Then they walked out, all 4 of them, laughing. I walked into my studio apartment that night, the kind of place Marcus would call beneath him, and opened a laptop that cost more than most people's cars. See, my name isn't just Emma Wilson, it's Emma Blackstone, as in Blackstone Industries, the tech empire my father built from nothing before he died and left me everything. $12 billion to be exact. 3 years ago, after Dad passed and the lawyers finished reading his will, I made a decision that would change my life forever. I'd watched my college boyfriend's face change the moment he learned about my inheritance. Suddenly, I wasn't Emma anymore. I was a walking ATM with legs. Every kiss felt transactional. Every "I love you" sounded like "I love your money." So I disappeared. Vanished into normal life. Started working as a waitress to find someone who could love me for me, not my bank account. Dad always said, "Emmy, you'll never know if they love you or your money until the money's not on the table." Well, I'd kept it off the table for 2 years with Marcus, and he'd shown me exactly who he was. I pulled out my secure phone, the one I hadn't touched in 3 years, and dialed a number I'd hoped never to use again. Victoria Cross speaking. "Vic, it's Emma. I need a favour." There was a pause. Then, "Emma Blackstone? Well, I'll be damned. Thought you were playing normal forever. What happened?" Someone reminded me why I can't trust anyone. I need deep background on Marcus Reed and his 3 buddies, Jake Morrison, Tyler Brooks, and Ryan Carter. They hurt someone I care about. "That someone being you?" My voice cracked just a little. "Yeah, that someone being me." Victoria Cross had been my father's head of security for 15 years. Former CIA, current miracle worker. If there was dirt to be found, she'd find it. Consider it done, but Emma? Her voice got that tone I remembered from when Dad tried to buy that failing startup against her advice. "Using our resources for personal revenge. You sure about this? Because, honey, I've seen what happens when billionaires get their feelings hurt." I thought about Marcus's laugh echoing through that restaurant, about Jake's applause, about Tyler's phone recording my humiliation, about Ryan's satisfied smirk. I'm not looking for revenge, Vic. I'm looking for justice. There's a difference. 24 hours later, Victoria sent me files that made my stomach drop. I sat in my car in Murphy's parking lot, staring at my laptop screen. Marcus Reed, embezzling $18,000 from client expense accounts over the past year. I had to read it twice. The man who'd called me trailer trash for not having money was literally stealing money. The irony was so thick I actually laughed out loud. Then I started crying, not from sadness, from rage, pure, white-hot rage. Marcus had been skimming here, padding there, thinking nobody would notice because he was too charming, too smart, too untouchable. Jake Morrison, $75,000 in gambling debts to some very unforgiving people, the kind of people who don't send polite reminder letters. Tyler Brooks, 6-month affair with his married boss, Mrs. Davidson, hotel receipts, text messages, photos, everything. And Ryan Carter, sealed juvenile record for assault that would cost him his security clearance if it ever surfaced, which it was about to. But then I saw something that made me pause. Jake's family photo on his desk through the surveillance footage. A wife, 2 little kids with gap-toothed smiles. For a moment I wondered if I was becoming the monster Marcus thought I was. Then I remembered his voice carrying across that restaurant. An embarrassment to successful men everywhere. Yeah, the doubt was gone. "Vic," I said into the phone, "let's give them exactly what they deserve. The truth about who they really are." I spent the next day doing something I hadn't done in years, using my brain for strategy instead of memorizing dinner specials. I watched Jake at the casino, saw Tyler meet Mrs. Davidson at the Marriott, observed Ryan lying to his security supervisor about a background check delay. These men had built their entire lives on lies and thought they were untouchable. Time to test that theory. But Tuesday evening, as I was planning their systematic downfall, my phone rang. "Emma." Marcus's voice was different, panicked, but also calculating. "I know who you really are." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "Emma Blackstone, billionaire heiress playing dress-up as a waitress. You know what gave you away? When I got arrested, they froze my accounts. I needed a lawyer, so I started thinking about everyone I knew with money. Then I remembered, you never seemed worried about money, ever. You'd pay those expensive dinner bills without even checking your account balance. So I had my lawyer's investigator run a background check. Emma Blackstone, $12 billion. His voice was gaining confidence now, like he thought he'd caught me in some grand deception. The question is, why the hell are you slumming it with people like me? Someone had blown my cover, but who? And more importantly, now that Marcus knew the truth, was he about to become an even more dangerous enemy? Or was he finally going to understand just how badly he'd messed up? You lied to me for 2 years, Marcus continued, his voice gaining that familiar arrogance. You pretended to be some poor waitress when you're worth billions. What kind of sick game were you playing? I sat in my car outside Murphy's Diner, still wearing my uniform, and smiled for the first time in 3 days. The kind of game where I find out who you really are, Marcus. And congratulations, you passed with flying colours. Passed? What the hell does that mean? It means I now know that you're the type of man who judges people by their job, their car, their address. You're the type who thinks being cruel to someone you consider beneath you is acceptable behaviour. That's not fair, Emma. If you told me the truth, I would have what? Treated you better because of my bank account? Loved you for my money instead of dismissing me for my uniform? I could hear him breathing hard on the other end. Either way, Marcus, you wouldn't have loved me. You would have loved what I could give you. You want to know what I learned about you, Marcus? You're not the successful finance guy you pretend to be. You're a thief. $18,000 from client expense accounts. Did you think nobody would notice? The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. How did you find out? The same way I found out that Jake owes money to people who break kneecaps. Tyler's been sleeping with Mrs. Davidson for 6 months, and Ryan's been lying on his security clearance applications. My voice didn't waver. When you have resources, Marcus, you can learn anything about anyone. Emma, listen to me. No, you listen. While you were calling me trailer trash, I was deciding whether you deserved my mercy or my justice. You chose justice. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Package delivered, all targets acquired. Marcus, check the news. Your friends are about to have a very bad week. Over the next hour, I listened to Marcus's world collapse in real time. I was sitting in my car outside Murphy's and I could hear Jake screaming through Marcus's phone about loan sharks showing up at his office. I wish I could say I felt bad. I didn't. Every scream, every panic attack, every desperate plea, it felt like justice, like the universe finally balancing the scales. Then Tyler, hysterical about Mrs. Davidson confronting him in the middle of a board meeting, throwing her coffee in his face while screaming about home wreckers. Finally, Ryan, panicking about a random background check that had somehow uncovered his juvenile record for assault. His security clearance was being revoked, effective immediately. "This is you," Marcus whispered when he called back, his voice broken. "You're destroying us." "I'm not destroying anything, Marcus. I'm just making sure the truth comes to light. Your friend Jake chose to gamble away his family's security. Tyler chose to cheat with a married woman. Ryan chose to lie about his violent past. And you?" I paused, letting it sink in. "You chose to steal from clients and humiliate someone you claim to love. Emma, please, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. You're beautiful, you're amazing. And I was an idiot to let you go. Stop." My voice cut through his desperate pleading like a knife. "Don't apologize because you're scared. Don't call me beautiful because you need something from me. You had 2 years to see who I really was, and you chose to see a uniform instead of a person. What do you want from me? Money? I'll pay you back everything. I want you to understand something, Marcus. The next time you think about judging someone by their job, their clothes, or their car, remember this moment. Remember that the person serving your food might be the person who could buy your entire company without checking their bank balance. The dominoes fell exactly as they should when you give the justice system accurate information. Marcus was arrested at his office Wednesday morning, perp walk and everything. The local news ate it up. Wall Street wannabe embezzles from clients. But the best part? His arrest happened during the company's biggest client meeting of the year. Security cameras caught everything. Marcus being led away in handcuffs while his boss explained to million-dollar clients why their account manager was a thief. The footage went viral on LinkedIn within hours. Former finance bro who called girlfriend trailer trash gets karma served cold, read the headline. Someone had leaked the Romano story to the press. Suddenly Marcus wasn't just a white-collar criminal, he was the poster boy for entitled men who think service workers are beneath them. Declared bankruptcy by Thursday after his creditors called in $75,000 in gambling debts. His wife filed for divorce Friday, taking the kids and what little was left of their savings. Tyler? Mrs. Davidson made sure every spouse in their social circle knew exactly what kind of man he was. His reputation was finished before lunch on Wednesday, his job followed by dinner. And Ryan lost his security clearance, which meant losing his job, which meant losing his ability to pay for his expensive lifestyle, built on lies. 4 men who'd spent years thinking they were untouchable learned they were very, very wrong. The calls from jail started on day 3. Marcus, desperate and broken, sounding nothing like the arrogant man who'd humiliated me at Romano's. Emma, I'll do anything. I'll pay you back every penny. I'll testify about what really happened that night. I'll go on record saying I was wrong about everything. I was sitting in my real office now, the one on the 42nd floor of the Blackstone Industries building, wearing a $12,000 suit, more than Marcus made in 2 months. Marcus, you're going to serve your sentence for crimes you actually committed. But here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm ensuring you have a competent lawyer and protective custody. I'm not cruel. I'm just not your savior. Why would you help me at all after what I did? Because unlike you, I don't enjoy watching people suffer unnecessarily. You're going to prison because you're a thief, not because you hurt my feelings. The justice system will handle your crimes. Your conscience will have to handle the rest. Emma, his voice cracked. I loved you. I really did. No, Marcus, you loved the idea of having someone grateful for your attention. There's a difference. 6 months later, I was back at Murphy's Diner, not to work, to hand out bonus checks. Every employee got a raise, healthcare, and legal protection against harassment. Why? Asked Sarah, the night shift manager who'd covered for me when I was sick. Because, I said, watching her eyes fill with tears as she saw the number, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, and sometimes the person serving your coffee has the power to make sure that happens. That's how the Emma Blackstone Foundation started. Not with press conferences, but with the people who'd stood beside me when I was nobody special. Every employee got a raise, healthcare, and legal protection against harassment. Why? Asked Sarah, the night shift manager who'd covered for me when I was sick. Because, I said, watching her eyes fill with tears as she saw the number, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, and sometimes the person serving your coffee has the power to make sure that happens. That's how the Emma Blackstone Foundation started. Not with press conferences, but with the people who'd stood beside me when I was nobody special. 15 months later, Marcus was released early for good behaviour. He sent one final letter. Emma, I'm working at a non-profit now, helping people with debt problems. It took me 6 months in prison to stop blaming everyone else. Another 6 to actually listen when my cellmate, a former teacher, told me about the kids he'd taught who worked service jobs to support their families. Prison didn't just teach me what it feels like to be powerless. It taught me that I'd been blind to power I never deserved. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm thanking you for showing me who I needed to become. I wrote back just once. I'm glad you're helping people, Marcus. Use your experience to make sure no one else has to learn these lessons the hard way. Then I deleted his contact forever. Some stories end with reconciliation. This one ended with justice and growth for both of us. Sitting here now, 3 years later, I realized that night at Romano's Steakhouse was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because I enjoyed being humiliated, but because it showed me that hiding who I was didn't protect me from cruel people. It just made me an easier target. Here's what I learned, and what I want every person listening to understand. Your worth is not determined by your job title, your car, your address, or your bank account. But, more importantly, other people's treatment of you says everything about them and nothing about you. Marcus judged me because I wore a uniform and took orders. He thought that made me less than him. But here's the truth. The person serving your coffee might be working 3 jobs to support their family. The person cleaning your office might have a PhD and be between careers. The person taking your order might be the CEO of a billion-dollar company, learning what it's like to be treated as invisible. You don't need billions of dollars to demand respect. You need to understand that respect is not earned by your profession. It's owed to you because you're human. And if someone treats you badly because they think you can't fight back, remember, you always have more power than you think. And if you're someone who thinks it's okay to be cruel to people in service jobs, remember Marcus Reed. Remember that the quiet person taking your order might be quiet for reasons you can't imagine. Remember that kindness costs nothing, but cruelty always comes with a bill. 80% of Americans have worked in service jobs at some point. That means most of us know what it's like to be treated as less than human by someone who thinks their money makes them better than us. It's time we stopped accepting that behavior. The most powerful person in any room isn't the one making the most demands. It's the one who treats everyone with dignity, regardless of what they do for a living. If you've ever been judged by your job, your appearance, or your circumstances, share your story in the comments. How did you prove them wrong? What would you say to someone going through the same thing? Hit subscribe if you believe everyone deserves basic human respect, and ring that notification bell because next week I'm sharing Sarah's story, a hotel housekeeper who exposed $1 million money laundering scheme because the criminals thought she was too stupid to understand English. Spoiler alert, she spoke 5 languages and had a master's degree in accounting. Remember, never mistake someone's job for their worth, their silence for weakness, or their kindness for stupidity. Until next time, this is your reminder that karma doesn't just exist. Sometimes it wears an apron and takes your order.